All right, y'all, I'm back. I had to stop the video to go check on something, but yeah, I don't. I try to dress in a way where you can still tell that I'm a woman, and there's a reason for that. For one, I'm black. Two, you, I don't want to dress like what people would consider to be the criminal element. Uh, and I don't wear oversized, baggy clothing because when you're out in public spaces and you have to go and use the public restroom and you have this oversized baggy shirt on and jeans or shorts on, you look like a man. They cannot tell, and some studs, look like that, and they look kind of strong, and you walking into a women's bathroom looking like that, you look like a black man, dressing in urban clothing. Police get called on you, you may get handled a certain kind of way, you know. And for those of you that be like, oh, she run your race into this. I am a law enforcement officer, by the way, and yes, there are biases that exist in law enforcement. It is what it is. Um, so I try not to dress like that. And I've had people try me, like, I've had women stop me and say, hey, you're going into the wrong restroom, after they stood there and looked at me from head to toe. I am, not a small chested woman. I'm not too big of a chest of a woman, but you can tell that there are breasts there. And, I just felt like they just wanted to be a nuisance, And so, just another thing, going into certain environments, public environments, going into certain places, watching the bathroom to see, is it safe? Is it comfortable for me to go in there? Is it going to cause some disruption? Like a few years ago, I was in some part of Tennessee. I don't know if it was Nashville or Knoxville, where they had that butch that went into the ladies' restroom, used the restroom, and she was drugged out of there by the police. And I think that recently happened again somewhere. So yeah, I don't have time for that. So I dress kind of what I've been told look kind of preppy, but it's intentional. And so that doesn't always catch the attention of black lesbians, black feminine lesbians. And it's not being stereotypical. I'm just saying what it is. If I were, you know, to dress a little more rugged and, maybe sag a little bit, just, what they consider to be swaggy, I'd probably get more attention. Um, I'm also a little on the heavy side. It's not too bad. As you can see, I know the camera is not really, it's not too bad. But I don't quite have the physique that they are looking for. So, I feel like I'm okay, but I know what they are looking for, what they're going for, and I'm not it. Um, I would have to do a lot of self-improvement outwardly for somebody the kind that I like, the kind of women that I like to um, want to go out on a date. And honestly, it seemed like all women of different socioeconomic, educational backgrounds like a certain type of stud, you know. Um, I'm also not cocky or arrogant, you know. I'm not somebody that people look at and be like, okay, yeah, I want her, you know. And in our community, in the black LGBTQ community, um, they tend to want the person that everybody wants. They tend to want that person, you know. Um, and they tend to want somebody that they deem physically attractive, like they call them fine shit, you know. Y'all know. Y'all know. I don't have to go too deep into that. But yeah, I think I'm too quiet, I'm too humble. And don't get me wrong, like that quiet and that humbleness can go out the window. I just do my best to try and have some decorum about myself and have some, logical and strategic way of dealing with conflict because I know how I am. If I don't pause to deal with conflict, I am a 0 to 100 kind of person, so I practice patience daily. I practice giving grace daily. So, but to most femmes in our community, if you are not, boisterous and cocky and, arrogant, or, if you're not, you could be quiet, and chill, but if you ain't looking like Rico Suave, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's not going to happen for you, It won't happen for you. And so that's what I'm running into now. Well, I've been running into that for years. And I've also been in relationships since I was 13. So now I'm just at the point in my life where maybe relationships need to pause. And because I've given a lot in those relationships. I've had a lot taken and I had a lot that I gave away, Family wise, my life as a stud. Some of my family members don't want me to do what's considered manly jobs or labor intensive things. And I know with certain family members it's because of my epilepsy. But like my mom, for example, like she's like, girl, don't pick that up. Girl, don't do this. Girl, don't do that. Let somebody. And I'm like, Mom, I'm strong enough to do this. Like, I'm stronger than him. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it just. But my mama came from that era where women were women. Women took care of the house, the kids. They made the house into a home. and the men went out there and did that, hard work or whatever. You needed a couch move, you needed furniture move. You called the man to do it, and you waited until the man was available to do it. She's from that era, and yeah, I be saying to myself, I am the man. I am the man, and I had the opportunity to grow up around this in my neighborhood. I wasn't, intentionally exposed to it or anything like that, where they were calling them bull daggers back then. And the term bull dagger, dyke, that's what they call lesbians back then in the 90s. And those lesbians in the 90s, they had labor intensive jobs that only men worked. They were true providers, because back then in the 90s, if you were a stud and you couldn't provide for your lady, that was an ultimate joke to men. She want to be a man, she can't even take care of, and then there was also, I'm talking about the sly disrespect and some overt disrespect that I got from men trying to handle handle up on who I was with. They would do it back then. They would get in that stud's well, her and her woman, and come and holler at them. So not only did they have to provide, but they had to be able to fight. Because back then in the 90s, a man ain't mind slapping the shit out of you. He'll slap the shit out you and call you a dyke in a minute, And so I grew up, seeing that if you are the bull dagger, if you are that, you take care of your home. You take care of your woman, you provide what she needs. And they would get her hair done, nails done, wear matching outfits. Of course, we're talking about the 90s, so things were a lot cheaper compared to how they are now. Now you almost need 3 jobs to do that. But yeah. And looking at the studs of today, it just seems like it's so easy for them now. Like they probably don't worry about all the shit that I'm talking about. A lot of studs now today, they have a lot of male friends. Hell, they running with an all male crew. They the homies. They running with the boys and all of that. And that's a problem for me also, because I don't subscribe to the toxic masculinity. Over the years, being around men also became easier if I was willing to, be on some toxic shit with them. So if they had a mistress at work and a wife at home, and, I was condoning that, or, associating myself with that, or even doing it myself, along with them, then, okay, if I was misogynistic towards women, if I were to, be catcalling women and all of that, then yeah, okay. All right. I wouldn't have no problems, but I wasn't trying to do that either. I'm, in the workplace, a lot of my problems with the men was because, one, they know that I wasn't going to be the lesbian that decided, okay, I want to try some ding-a-ling. You know what I'm saying? So that was the problem. And then it's like, I was actually told by, one of my coworkers was that she was like, the problem is not that you're a lesbian. The problem is that you're a masculine lesbian. And so if you were a feminine lesbian, you wouldn't have all this trouble. But because you're a masculine lesbian, it's like and you do your job very well, and you do it better than some of them. It's like they're having to compete with another man for the top spot. And I was like, oh, yeah, I kind of figured that. I was like, yeah, that make a lot of sense. Um, so that's all I could think of for now. You know, it's my life as a women. Um, I had got invited at work to an all, women's event, and it was a ladies brunch, but it was all of the ladies that owned and ran businesses. Like these were some movers and shakers, and some of them were old money that was in there, and the looks that I got, because I showed up as my authentic self. I didn't go put on a dress or go buy a lady's pantsuit or skirt set. I came as myself. I came with my slacks and my Oxfords and my plaid button down shirt. I that was pressed and neat. Shoes matched my belt. Haircut. I kind of went like that. And the looks that I got were, and it was mainly from the older women, and it looked like they were between their 50s and 70s. The next brunch they had the year after, I was not invited to that brunch, which lets me know that several women went back and complained at my presence being there. And yeah, it just hadn't really been an easy life as far as dealing with people. But I am blessed. But like dealing with people, especially like working in law enforcement, like oh my gosh, like it's the secret competitiveness, the secret animosity that's not really a secret. It's loud as hell. And I don't know about any other state, but I know in the state of Louisiana in law enforcement, a lot of those male officers are, and this is just stating what I've seen from, it's my reality. Anything that looks like they can attain to have sex with, they go after the women in law enforcement that's attractive. And when a lesbian is around, they have a problem with that. And y'all could be cool, y'all could have the best relationship, and then all of a sudden, they have a problem with you and you don't know why. But you know why if you pay attention to it, because they think that you're a competition for the woman that they want, But as far as dealing with people, it's been kind of rough. And love for me has not been easy. Either I was looked at as a pushover, as an easy mark. I've been cheated on in every relationship that I've had. Or I got left because I wasn't exciting enough, but they will come up with other reasons. Reasons that just seem like ridiculous. And just looking for a way out, being a coward instead of saying, you know what, you're not my type, and I tried. Sorry, I wasted your time and mine. Shoot it straight with me. I could take it. Even being friends with other studs, it's a little better now, but there was a time where it was hard for studs to be friends with each other, because it was like if you weren't on the same type of wavelength that they were on, they weren't trying to be friends with you. So if you wasn't wearing the name brand, clothes, and you know, just looking like a rapper, they wasn't trying to be friends with you. And then, or they'll size you up and look at you as competition. And they would definitely try to take your lady from you in front of your face, you know. But as I got older, I made a friend who was a stud, and right now we're not on speaking terms, but not for the reasons that I mentioned. But yeah, so that's that. That's that has been my experience. So I'm gonna sign off on that. If I think of something else later that I haven't mentioned in the two videos, then I'll I'll come back and make another one. So again, L_complex, L complex on YouTube. You want to follow me on TikTok? It is _LibraLove504 _. Y'all have a good night.